The human body is a city of rivers. Every second of your life, blood travels more than 60,000 miles through an intricate highway system of arteries, veins, and microscopic capillaries. These rivers carry oxygen, they deliver nutrients, they remove waste. And when they flow freely, you feel energized, focused, alive. But when those rivers narrow, when plaque hardens their walls, when inflammation stiffens what was meant to be elastic, the entire system begins to slow. Fatigue creeps in, brain fog settles over your thoughts, blood pressure rises, the heart works harder just to keep up, and silently, year after year, arteries begin to lose their flexibility, turning from supple pathways into rigid pipes. This is how cardiovascular disease begins, not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly, until one day the warning signs can no longer be ignored. Yet inside your body exists one of the most powerful healing molecules ever discovered, a gas so small, so fleeting, that scientists almost missed it entirely. Nitric oxide. It doesn't come in a pill. It doesn't sit stored in your organs. Your body creates it moment by moment, releasing it directly into your blood vessel walls. And when nitric oxide shows up, everything changes. Arteries relax, blood vessels widen, circulation surges, oxygen delivery improves, blood pressure drops, platelets become less sticky, inflammation calms, even cholesterol has a harder time clinging to vessel walls. Nitric oxide is the signal that tells your cardiovascular system to open, to soften, to flow. It is the molecule of life force. But here's the hard truth. Modern living is destroying your nitric oxide levels. Stress burns it away. Poor sleep suppresses production. High blood sugar neutralizes it. Smoking eliminates it. Sedentary habits shut it down. And ultra-processed foods starve your body of the raw materials it needs to make it. By the time most people reach middle age, nitric oxide production has dropped by more than half. That's not just aging, that's biological suffocation. Because without enough nitric oxide, arteries stiffen, blood pressure climbs, endothelial cells, the delicate lining of your vessels, begin to malfunction. This dysfunction becomes the breeding ground for plaque, clots, and chronic inflammation. But the story doesn't end there, because food can turn this around. Not supplements, not pharmaceuticals, food. Certain plants contain powerful natural nitrates, polyphenols, antioxidants, and amino acids that directly feed your nitric oxide pathways. They don't just support circulation, they restore it. They awaken dormant enzymes. They reactivate endothelial cells. They literally tell your blood vessels to expand. These foods don't merely lower numbers on a lab report. They change how your body feels. Warmth returns to cold hands and feet. Energy rises. Exercise becomes easier. Mental clarity sharpens. Even intimacy improves because nitric oxide governs blood flow everywhere, including the most sensitive regions of the body. Today, we begin with one of the most misunderstood and underestimated foods on Earth, a vegetable so powerful it was once used as medicine, a root so rich in nitrates that Olympic athletes drink its juice before competition, a food that stains your fingers crimson and your urine pink and quietly rebuilds your arteries while you sleep. Beets. Deep beneath their rough skin lies a vascular miracle. Beets are loaded with dietary nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide through a beautiful biological relay. First, beneficial bacteria in your mouth transform nitrates into nitrites. Then, once swallowed, enzymes convert those nitrites into nitric oxide inside your blood vessels. This is why antibacterial mouthwash actually reduces nitric oxide production. It kills the very microbes that start this process. When you eat beets, Nitric oxide levels rise within hours. Blood pressure begins to fall. Arterial flexibility improves. Endurance increases. Studies show beet consumption can lower systolic blood pressure by up to 5 points, comparable to some medications without side effects. But the magic goes deeper. Beets are rich in betalains, powerful pigments that reduce oxidative stress inside vessel walls. They calm inflammation that damages endothelial cells. They help prevent LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, a key step in plaque formation. They also contain folate, which lowers homocysteine, an amino acid linked to arterial injury. Together, these compounds create a perfect storm of cardiovascular repair. But here's what most people don't realize. It's not just raw beets. Roasted beets, steamed beets, fermented beet kvass, even powdered beet added to smoothies. Each form feeds the same nitric oxide machinery. A single cup of cooked beets delivers enough nitrates to significantly enhance circulation. But consistency matters. This isn't a one-time fix. This is nourishment that rebuilds your vascular system day by day. People who eat beets regularly show improved endothelial function, reduced arterial stiffness, and better oxygen delivery to muscles and brain tissue. And the effects don't stop at the heart. Nitric oxide from beets improves cognitive performance by increasing blood flow to the frontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and focus. It enhances exercise capacity by reducing the oxygen cost of movement. Your body literally becomes more efficient. But there's a companion food that amplifies everything beets do. A leafy green so packed with nitrates that it outperforms most vegetables gram for gram. A plant that grows quietly in gardens and markets, yet holds the power to open arteries like sunlight opens flowers. Arugula, also known as rocket. Peppery, bright, alive with enzymes. Arugula contains some of the highest nitrate concentrations of any edible plant. Even small servings trigger measurable rises in nitric oxide. It also delivers vitamin K for vascular integrity, vitamin C for endothelial repair, and polyphenols that protect nitric oxide from being destroyed by free radicals. When paired with beets, arugula creates a circulation symphony. Roots and leaves, earth and air, one feeding production, the other preserving it. Together, they turn your blood vessels into open highways instead of traffic jams. People who incorporate arugula into daily meals often notice changes within weeks: lower resting heart rate, improved stamina, and a subtle sense of internal warmth that comes from blood finally reaching tissues that were once starved. And this is only the beginning. Because nature didn't stop with beets and greens. There are 5 more foods that speak directly to your arteries. 5 more that cleanse, soften, and restore. 5 more that awaken nitric oxide pathways most people don't even know exist. And each one tells a different chapter in the story of circulation, resilience, and long-term heart vitality. The next food doesn't grow underground or flutter on leafy stems. It hangs from trees, glowing like small suns. A fruit so simple, so familiar, that most people never imagine it could influence the deepest layers of their cardiovascular system. Oranges. And not just oranges, all citrus. Grapefruit, lemons, limes, tangerines. Inside their bright flesh lives a class of compounds called flavonoids, especially hesperidin and naringenin. These aren't just antioxidants. They are direct messengers to your endothelial cells, the thin living lining inside every artery. When flavonoids enter your bloodstream, they stimulate endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme responsible for manufacturing nitric oxide. They don't merely provide building blocks, they flip the switch. Clinical studies show that drinking citrus juice or eating whole citrus fruit significantly improves flow-mediated dilation, a gold standard measure of arterial health. That means your blood vessels become more responsive, more elastic, more capable of expanding when demand rises. This is flexibility returning. This is circulation waking up. But citrus does something even more profound. It strengthens capillary walls. It reduces platelet aggregation. It lowers inflammatory markers like CRP, and it helps prevent LDL cholesterol from becoming oxidized, the dangerous form that burrows into arterial walls and begins building plaque. One large observational study found that people who consumed citrus regularly had a dramatically lower risk of ischemic stroke. Not because citrus is magical, because nitric oxide is. And citrus teaches your body how to make more of it. But here's the key most people miss. Juice alone isn't enough. Whole fruit matters. The white pith beneath the peel, the part most people discard, contains concentrated flavonoids and fiber that slow sugar absorption and feed your gut microbiome. That microbiome, in turn, supports nitric oxide signaling throughout your body. It's all connected. Blood flow starts in the gut. And this brings us to the next powerhouse, a food that looks unassuming, a food that crunches quietly, a food that smells faintly green and fresh. Celery. Celery is over 95% water, yet inside those pale green stalks lives a remarkable compound called apigenin. Apigenin protects nitric oxide from being degraded once it's produced. It acts like a bodyguard, shielding this fragile molecule from oxidative destruction. Celery also contains natural nitrates, potassium for blood pressure regulation, and phthalides, plant chemicals shown to relax smooth muscle tissue in artery walls. That relaxation allows vessels to widen. Pressure drops, flow increases. In animal studies, celery extract lowered blood pressure by up to 14%. In humans, regular celery consumption has been linked to improved lipid profiles and reduced arterial stiffness. But celery's real gift is synergy. It pairs beautifully with citrus. It amplifies the effects of leafy greens. It deepens the benefits of beets. It weaves itself into soups, juices, salads, and stir-fries, quietly reinforcing your nitric oxide network with every bite. And while we're speaking of quiet power, there is a seed that deserves reverence. Small, dark, almost invisible, yet ancient civilizations prized it as medicine. Flaxseed. Flaxseed is rich in alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that reduces vascular inflammation and improves endothelial function. But its true cardiovascular magic comes from lignans. Lignans are phytoestrogens that reduce oxidative stress, balance cholesterol, and support nitric oxide production by improving insulin sensitivity. High blood sugar sabotages nitric oxide. Flax helps reverse that. Ground flaxseed, not whole, delivers soluble fiber that traps excess cholesterol in the gut, preventing it from re-entering circulation. Over time, this reduces the raw material plaque is made from. People who consume flax daily show lower blood pressure, reduced LDL cholesterol, and improved arterial compliance. In one study, hypertensive patients who added flaxseed to their diet saw systolic pressure drop by over 10 points. 10. That's not subtle, that's transformation. But arteries don't heal from nutrients alone. They heal from signals, from chemical messages that say soften, open, repair. And there is one food that delivers those messages with extraordinary intensity. A spice so potent that it has been used for thousands of years in healing traditions across Asia and the Middle East. Garlic. Raw garlic is a nitric oxide catalyst. When you crush or chop it, enzymes activate allicin, which quickly converts into sulfur compounds that increase nitric oxide availability and stimulate hydrogen sulfide production, another gasotransmitter that relaxes blood vessels. Garlic doesn't just enhance circulation. It dismantles plaque. It reduces arterial calcification. It lowers blood pressure. It thins blood gently, preventing dangerous clot formation. It improves cholesterol ratios. And it does all of this while fighting inflammation at the genetic level. Multiple studies show garlic supplementation reduces systolic and diastolic blood pressure, sometimes matching pharmaceutical drugs. But unlike drugs, garlic also restores endothelial function. It doesn't force vessels open, it teaches them to open. 2 crushed cloves per day can significantly increase nitric oxide metabolites in the bloodstream. Let that sink in. 2 cloves. Yet most people cook garlic to death, destroying allicin before it ever reaches their cells. The secret is simple. Crush it, let it sit for 10 minutes, then add it to warm food at the end of cooking. This preserves its vascular medicine. And now we arrive at the final food, the one that brings everything together, the one that doesn't shout its benefits, but delivers them slowly, steadily, and deeply. A legume that has nourished heart health for millennia. Lentils. Lentils are rich in arginine, an amino acid your body uses directly to synthesize nitric oxide. They also provide magnesium for vascular relaxation, potassium for pressure balance, and polyphenols that protect endothelial cells. But lentils offer something rare. They stabilize blood sugar. Stable blood sugar means nitric oxide survives longer. Spikes destroy it. Balance preserves it. People who eat legumes regularly show significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, improved arterial elasticity, and reduced markers of systemic inflammation. Lentils feed your nitric oxide factories while calming the metabolic chaos that shuts them down. They are grounding. They are steady. They are the slow-burning fuel of circulatory health. And when you combine lentils with garlic, citrus, celery, arugula, beets, and flax, you don't just eat, you rebuild. Your arteries begin to soften. Your blood pressure finds equilibrium. Your tissues receive oxygen again. Your heart stops struggling and starts thriving. But the most beautiful part of this story is that your body remembers how to heal. These foods simply remind it. Every meal becomes a message, every bite a signal, every day a chance to reopen the rivers within you. Because once those rivers reopen, something extraordinary happens. You don't just improve circulation, you reclaim parts of yourself you thought were gone. Morning stiffness fades, your hands stop feeling cold. That heavy pressure behind your eyes loosens. You breathe deeper without realizing it. Your heart no longer feels like it's pushing against resistance. It feels supported. This is what happens when nitric oxide returns. But understand this, nitric oxide is fragile. It lives for seconds inside your bloodstream. Seconds. That's why consistency matters more than perfection. This is not about heroic detoxes or dramatic cleanses. This is about daily reinforcement. A handful of arugula folded into eggs, a cup of roasted beets beside dinner, citrus segments tossed into a salad, celery sliced into soup, ground flax stirred into yogurt, garlic crushed and allowed to awaken before touching heat, lentils simmered slowly, absorbing spices and thyme. These are quiet rituals, but inside your body, they create thunder. Because every time you eat these foods, endothelial cells receive instructions. They upregulate nitric oxide synthase. They reduce adhesion molecules that allow plaque to stick. They increase elasticity. They restore responsiveness. Your arteries begin behaving like living tissue again, not aging plumbing. And something else happens. Plaque stops progressing. Inflammation markers fall. Blood becomes less viscous. The inner lining of your vessels, once irritated and damaged, begins regenerating. This is not theory. This is physiology. Your endothelium is a dynamic organ. It constantly renews itself, but it needs the right signals. Without nitric oxide, endothelial cells become dysfunctional. They allow cholesterol infiltration. They attract immune cells. They encourage calcification. With nitric oxide, they repel damage. They orchestrate repair. They maintain balance. This is why cardiologists now recognize endothelial dysfunction as the earliest stage of heart disease, long before blockages appear on scans. And this is why these foods matter so deeply. They don't treat symptoms, they restore function. They go upstream. They heal the source. But there's one more layer most people never consider. Nitric oxide doesn't work alone. It communicates with mitochondria, the energy factories inside every cell. When nitric oxide levels rise, mitochondrial efficiency improves. Cells produce energy with less oxygen. Muscles fatigue more slowly. Brain cells fire more cleanly. This is why athletes feel stronger on beet juice. This is why mental clarity sharpens when circulation improves. This is why fatigue lifts. Your cells stop gasping. They start humming. And as your metabolism stabilizes, insulin sensitivity improves. Blood sugar smooths out. Less glucose sticks to proteins. Less oxidative stress is generated. This protects nitric oxide even further. It becomes a self-reinforcing loop. Flow begets flow. Healing begets healing. And here's something profoundly hopeful. Even arteries that have already stiffened can regain flexibility. Studies show measurable improvements in arterial compliance within weeks of dietary nitrate intake. Within weeks. That means your body is always waiting for permission to repair. It doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't dwell on past damage. It responds to present signals. Give it the right inputs and it adapts. And adaptation is life. But let's speak honestly. These foods don't work in isolation if the rest of your lifestyle is poisoning nitric oxide. Chronic stress floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, constricting vessels. Sleep deprivation suppresses nitric oxide synthase. Sedentary habits reduce shear stress, the gentle friction of blood flow that stimulates nitric oxide production. Ultra-processed foods spike glucose and generate advanced glycation end products that damage endothelial cells. So while food is powerful, it becomes unstoppable when paired with movement, rest, and breathing. A 10-minute walk after meals dramatically increases nitric oxide. Deep nasal breathing increases endogenous production. Sunlight exposure boosts circadian rhythm, which regulates vascular tone. Simple habits amplify the effects of every bite. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about stacking small wins. And here's something almost poetic. The very foods that increase nitric oxide are also foods that slow aging. They reduce telomere shortening. They lower systemic inflammation. They protect cognitive function. They support muscle mass. They support sexual vitality. They enhance immune resilience. Blood flow touches everything. When circulation improves, every organ feels it. Your skin glows because capillaries deliver nutrients. Your kidneys filter better. Your liver detoxifies more efficiently. Your brain receives oxygen-rich blood. Your heart finally feels like it's working with your body, not against it. This is why erectile dysfunction is often the first warning sign of cardiovascular disease, not because it's separate, but because it's the smallest arteries in the body. They fail first. Restore nitric oxide and function often returns. Restore flow and vitality follows. And the beauty is that none of this requires expensive interventions. No prescriptions, no exotic therapies, just plants, roots, leaves, seeds, fruits. Simple foods that speak the language of your cells. Beets open the gates. Arugula floods the system. Citrus flips the enzymatic switch. Celery preserves the signal. Flax rebuilds metabolic balance.
Garlic dismantles inflammation. Lentils provide steady fuel. Together, they create an internal environment where arteries soften instead of harden, where blood glides instead of grinds, where healing becomes the default state. You don't need to fear aging. You need to feed adaptation. You don't need to fight your body. You need to support it. Because inside you right now exists a blueprint for renewal. Nitric oxide is part of that blueprint, and every meal is an opportunity to activate it. Not dramatically, not aggressively, gently, persistently, powerfully. The rivers within you are waiting. Open them, let them flow, and let your heart remember what it feels like to move through life without resistance.